Hello, I'm Phil Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and welcome to my vlog where it's both my mission and my pleasure to highlight my creative journey in hopes of inspiring you, giving you a specific takeaway, all that way to make your journey at least a little bit easier. Now, before I fully dive into stuff, two things. Number one, if you haven't already subscribed, I would love to invite you to do so. That way you get all the various lessons and episodes that I put out right when I put them out. Thank you if you already did, and thank you if you just did right now. It truly does mean a lot to me, as I hope it does to you. Secondly, this is a vlog from the road. I've got a bit of driving to do, and so, I figured why not do an episode from the road. I did one a while ago, it's been quite a while. It was, in fact, last year. It was in October, but kind of around the same time when I went to Vegas for a screening of my second feature film, a Bogota trip. And, figured I'd do one now. Not because it's anything special or anything like that, but, with my vlogs, I try to be detailed and things of that nature. And sometimes, and I'll get into all the things, but, life's been a little bit busy. And so, to record like a half an hour or, sometimes longer for a vlog, that's time and stuff like that. And so, I've been putting out sort of more shorter lessons these past couple of weeks, like 5 to 10 minutes. And plus, I felt that perhaps kind of everything going on, wouldn't be as interesting, and I'd rather add more value to people by, honing in on specifics that may be more benefit to them and things like that. But anyway, so here I am on the road, and one of the things that I thought about initially, just as a random thought, as one has when they're driving, is I'm in a place in life where the things that I kind of consume, whether it's movies, TV shows, music, books, and that includes fiction and nonfiction, I can just appreciate them for what they do. I don't need it to be revelatory, especially with nonfiction, I would say, because I think so many people fall into the nonfiction trap, specifically with self-help, where they're like, I need to become better and better, and they pursue that thing. And it's not that it's a negative, but it can be debilitating, because when you're looking for new information, you might find various parts boring, right? Whereas, not saying I know everything, not by any stretch of the imagination. However, I am lucky, and I have put in the time to know many things and start to see, various patterns in just art in general, of themes and things like that. And so, even when things are similar enough, as long as they're told well, then I just appreciate that, regardless of how similar it may be to other works of art, right? And I put nonfiction stuff as works of art as well, just because it focuses on, quote unquote, more real stuff. Doesn't make it any better or worse. In fact, certainly there's an argument to be made that fictional art, movies, TV shows, stuff like that, require someone to understand the truth of humanity and stuff like that, right? But anyway, thought I'd just kind of share that as an overall, because I think too often times, it can be, we can when we read something or watch something, especially as artists trying to, progress ourselves, it can start to become a chore, and we lose the love a little bit of it. Whereas, I don't necessarily know what it is. I don't know what to attribute it to, but I just had that mental shift of, I'm enjoying this. And yeah, that means something. So switching gears, the reason why, I've kind of been busy and haven't posted many vlogs was because a lot of my time essentially has been getting split into work, training my foster dog, and then also helping that foster dog, Diamond, try to get adopted. Now, you might be wondering, wait, didn't you have a foster dog named Diamond? And wasn't she adopted? So you're correct, and that was supposed to happen. Just for quick context, if you're unfamiliar, so before the 4th of July weekend, there was an emergency 4-day foster program that the LA County shelters were essentially begging people to be a part of because of overcrowding in the shelters, and overcrowding leads to euthanasia. And because of the 4th of July weekend in particular, with the fireworks and things like that, dogs can get loose, end up in the shelter. And so, they were just looking for some relief so that way they could have space to be able to return, dogs that were owned by somebody, right? And so I had done that and was assigned to Diamond, this wonderful 50-pound tan German Shepherd mix. And when the 4 days were up, obviously I didn't have the heart to give her up. And so, in my mind, I was like, well, I'll take care of her until I find her a forever home. And, it's a very nebulous thing. I'd not really been through that process, not where the adoptive family wasn't already kind of pre-lined up. So that way it's like, hey, can you take care of this dog for a week before it goes to its forever home? It's like, yeah. So this has been a sort of newer experience. And to that effect, I thought I had found somebody, and she was technically adopted August 15th. However, what quickly came to light was that the person was not somebody that really wanted a dog. They liked the idea of a dog, but not having a dog. And so they just complained about little things that, any dog owner would just laugh at, of like, wait, what are we talking about? Because it's not like, the person called me up and said like, hey, the dog destroyed my house, bit somebody, stuff like that. Then, that's a conversation. And even then, certainly a dog's behavior can be adjusted, right? And that could be worked with. Seemingly impossible situations can always have solutions. But we were talking about anything like that. We were just talking about, she pulls on the leash. It's like, okay, that's a very common dog problem. If you Google solutions, there's tons of solutions. Furthermore, Diamond was less than 2 days into it, and you're expecting to have command of her. Meanwhile, you brought her to a very sensory overload place, like downtown, where there's tons of restaurants with food, so she's smelling food. There's other dogs. There's tons of people. So of course she's not going to listen to you. Not on day 2, where she doesn't even know you. It's a completely new environment in terms of with the person and where she's being brought. So, it's just unrealistic expectations ultimately. Anyway, long story short, she was surrendered, and so I picked her back up immediately, and so now she's back in my care. And, I could tell that this person had just completely, again, unrealistic expectations. I'm trying to think of a better wording for it, but we'll just go with that. Where, when they called me like, hey, I'm going to return her to where she came. I'm like, it's not a blanket that you're returning to Target. She didn't come from the shelter. And what you're doing, you're not returning her. You're surrendering her. And when I met the person there, I turned to the employee. I was like, if I wasn't here to pick her up, what would happen? they're like, well, we're overcrowded and she's owner surrendered, so she'd probably be put down in like a day or two. I was like, does that mean nothing to you? And I wasn't trying to make the person feel bad, but what I wanted was, I told them that Diamond has a big safety net and she'll be fine. But I told the person, please don't do this to another animal. Like, if you seriously want to get a dog, know what you're signing up for. It's a commitment for that dog's life. Just like we say in marriage, in sickness and in health and all that stuff, right? Whether or not that resonated and stuck, I don't know. I'll never know. But, I really hope that it does. But anyway, so yeah, Diamond's been back in my care. And we're looking. And that's why a couple of weeks ago I posted this little 5-minute video to showcase her personality. And that was sort of my big thing with all this, was like, okay, well, let's circle the wagon, so to speak, and come up with, like, I'm creative, right? So let's put this creativity towards finding her a good forever home. And at that point, I'd had her for over a month. So it's like, okay, I've got enough photos and video to make something. Sure, I could use more, but I can, I'll film that, I'll focus on that and put something together because I can really showcase her, right? And that's what I did, right? I focused on that, and I wrote this like little script from her perspective that I could use as just a post on Facebook and have it be through the written word. But then also I had this video, and the video I knew, I can kind of mix and match it where I can, I haven't done it yet, but I can create a 30-second version. I can create a 60-second version, right? Like, it can be cut down off of the 5 minutes, ultimately. So, but I knew, like, let me start with the 5-minute video, and then, I can always trim it down. So I did that, and, my guiding light there has been have more people post or new leads. Like, those are the benchmarks. Those are the milestones that I'm looking for as far as getting her out there. And to some degree, it's been successful in that way. And I've been reaching out to various people to help promote her. And like, it's a newer experience in that, I could dedicate 20 hours a day to trying to promote her in the right ways. And it doesn't necessarily have to yield results, right? That's the sort of frustrating aspect that I've had to sort of make my peace with. But as long as, that's why I mentioned the first one, as long as people, and specifically new people, are sharing her, then we're making some progress, right? And, Nextdoor seems to be a platform that at least gets the most traction, the most interaction. And so that's been really helpful so far. Nothing in terms of that. But, slowly but surely, there has been movement. I mean, I've spoken with a few people that I'm not going to say like were interested. I think it was like they were trying to help out. Like, hey, they saw that post and they're like, okay, hey, like, I can take her for a little bit. I can be more of a longer term home for her. And given the past situation, I'd interview them and stuff like that. And it's nothing against them. It's just, when something's a good fit versus not. And so, this time around, I'm much more protective of Diamond and don't want to put her in a negative situation. And so, yeah, if something, just because it might be convenient for me or something like that, I'm like, you know what, no. So, and part of my new wave of getting her out there was to also define, okay, well, what is the ideal forever family look like? And for me, I identified it as a young couple that's very active, and one that would have a dog. Now, of course, is that a requirement? No, they don't. And in fact, there is a young couple that overall fits that description. They just don't have dogs at the moment, so this would be their first one. And so we're kind of talking things like that. And so right now, things seem to be progressing, but at the same time, I'm going to continue that search just because, things could, of course, fall through for any number of reasons, So the search essentially in that way continues. But yeah, as far as, her, that's been one half of it. And then the other half of it has just been continuing to work with her and train her, while she is under my stewardship. It's giving her that quality of life, keeping her entertained, and also working towards making her more adoptable, right? So continuing to work with her trainer, continuing to work with me as the homework stuff and things of that nature. And so, yeah, we're slowly but surely continuing that, and she's progressing, and she's always been a good learner, but unlike with that initial person that she ended up with, just it takes time in anything. We have such unrealistic expectations for others and even for ourselves of, imagine if you picked up something that was extremely difficult, let's say a new sport, and all of a sudden, you expect to be good at it, but you're frustrated because you're not. It's like, well, give yourself some credit. It can be a hard sport, right? Every sport requires a lot. Doesn't matter what it is. And just because you're not good at it right away doesn't make you terrible at it. It just means you might have to practice at it to get better. So I think that's something to keep in mind of all things, So, that's kind of certainly one of the things that's been going on. And then once I did establish an overall routine with Diamond again and kind of found my rhythm of life, then I was able to also focus back on to the creative stuff. And not necessarily tons of hours, but, getting back into it and just making slow but sure progress. So the biggest thing for me has been wanting to, finish up this script that I've been writing for my third film. And it's just been taking a while. I mean, it's very, if you've been following me, that it's very, very ambitious in terms of its scope. It needs to be intricately weaved together and things of that nature. And, I was making really good progress. This past week, I was literally writing about an hour a day at the top. I would walk Diamond, and then I would just kind of, before the workday really began, I was like, what, let me just do this as the first thing so nothing can interrupt me. So I would spend an hour writing. And, sometimes I could get through 3, 4, maybe even 5 pages. Other time, if I got half a page, that was good, right? And as I was going, plot holes became apparent. Questions began to arise of, where it was headed, what's been on the page. And, this is the fine line that I struggle with as a writer, because as I, say oftentimes, you got to just get through the bad writing, because you can always revise what's there, but you can't revise nothing. And so, I was forcing myself to just get through all this writing. And I was really trying to just get to the end and make it happen. the thing of it was more and more kept arising. And I was like, you know what? I need to. So I got to page 120 of the script, which, usually should mark the end, because most scripts, especially spec scripts, certainly should be like 90 to 120 pages. And each page, the page count represents minutes, right? So 90-page script equals about a 90-minute movie. 120 equals a 2-hour movie. But I still had a long ways to go with mine in terms of the plot. So what I thought would be beneficial for me was to get a more macro view. And because I knew various, ideas kept popping up of how to tighten up things earlier, and I had been marking the script for my revision to go back and revise it, just the ideas and stuff like that while I kept going. I was like, you know what? Let me just go back. And I'm literally going back to the outline itself to get a more macro view of everything, but also making everything cleaner. And so in the past day and a half, I've literally refocused on that. And I started off with, there's kind of various elements to the script, whether mystical or technological, that I just kind of defined those things in like 4 sentences. So I knew exactly what they were, and I could define essentially the rules of, certain aspects. And then I focused on the characters. So I did essentially character briefs. So 2 to 4 paragraphs tops about each main character's history. So that way I could always refer to it, and I can, I polished it up for myself. And to be honest, it was just good to refresh my memory of, the perspective of each of these characters, because, in the past month, I've been so in the minutia of just each of these scenes that to take the step back allows a new perspective and lets me see of what they would think and how they would respond in these various situations that I've been working so hard to progress. So I did that, and now I'm in Act 1 of the outline phase. So I'm literally beat by beat as far as the story is concerned. I'm going in and writing the outline again and incorporating the script, as things are, while also any notes and adjustments that I have, I think about, okay, this is a plot hole, and why isn't it making sense? Well, how can I make it make sense in a way that's, in line with the characters and so forth. And so far, that's been really productive for me. So it continues to be part of this project's 2 steps forward, 1 step back progress, but and that's been really beneficial. So I like where it's headed for this coming week. I've given myself the task of, let me get through this outline. And that'll really help me, because when I look back on it, and by the way, just in general, I always do create an outline, and it always helps me to write the first draft, right? And so with this particular project, the outline that I had, it tremendously helped me write that first draft, because I knew where I was headed with each particular scene. I didn't have to worry about the macro, I could worry about the micro. The problem was that the outline, the last version of an outline versus where the story is now, it's night and day. It's not totally the core of it, of course, remains there. But as far as the motivations and what's happening, it's really night and day. And so I had to shift that. And so this will help me, after this week, or, maybe I can get the outline done sooner, who knows? But the idea would be, once I have this outline, then I can dive into the script a lot easier because I've worked out the macro side of where things should be going, right? And I know, I give myself reminders of like what is really important and what is this scene about, right? That way I'm not having to find it as I'm writing. So I'm really looking forward to that and believe that it will help progress things forward. The other thing that has been very beneficial for me is I've been utilizing ChatGPT just to clean up my sentences. So, with my character briefs and even with the outline and things of that nature, I have all this stuff written and I'll kind of just really write it sloppily. And I'll literally throw it into ChatGPT and say, hey, can you clean this up? Can you compress it? Can you clarify it and make it flow better? And then it does its thing. And, I take that, and it's not perfect, right? Like, it's still a back and forth where very much, I'll take it, and sometimes it'll change the intent of what I'm trying to say, and I'll have to kind of revise it, right? Or sometimes it'll use words that no human, they make sense, but why would you use that word? It's just being overconflated for no reason. And so I kind of, I might do this like back and forth where I'll revise what it types, and then I'll throw it back in again and say, okay, hey, clarify this, polish this up again, blah, 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 and get to a place where it works. Now, I'm also utilizing this because, this is stuff that ultimately, apart from like the character briefs, no one's really going to necessarily need to see, or things like that. Like it gets me close enough where it reads well for my own purposes, right? It's not necessarily anything that I would like even use as pitch material quite yet. Like I would really go back in and polish that up. But for my purposes of being able to track my own outline so that way I can write a draft and read character bios, it works enough, right? And the key to all of this is I'm feeding it my words, my intent, my information. And even still, as I said, it sometimes changes the intent off of it. And so that's why I need to continue, I can't just copy and paste it back in. I need to like revise it and stuff like that, and so forth. But it has been useful because, it just allows me to get thoughts down on paper in this way. And for me to worry less about the grammar, sentence structure, and so forth, because it can help me out with that. Again, far from still being perfect, but at least like a lot better than, I'm coming up with in that moment. So that's been a way that I've been using ChatGPT to help expedite my process. The other thing as far as this project is concerned is the character animations. We've done all the main characters. Now we're focused on other characters involved in the script, the ones that I know will remain. And so it's been fun. And these are sort of more fantastical characters. So it's been fun to see these come to life. And so far we've got 3 quote unquote done. And I say quote unquote because, inevitably while we're like signed off on this version, as the script evolves and things like that and things come to fruition, there'll of course be changes, but at least like we're at a level where we're close enough with these designs that it's like, okay, we don't need to tinker for the sake of tinkering. And I just got a draft of character number 4. I'm going to have some revisions for that and can't wait to see that come in. And then character number 5, and that'll complete this stage of the character designs. And I'll probably hold off until after this draft of until I have a new draft of the script, so we can all look back and reassess of, okay, how do we want to approach this? What's working? What do we want to elevate? Yada yada. So that's been really exciting. The other thing that, shifting gears out of the creative, it's been good. I've kind of reorganized and upgraded my apartment. I got a new sound system, bigger TV, kind of switched up how the room looks, and just kind of creating better feng shui overall. And that's also, in a way, made Diamond comfortable, because now she feels like, I don't know, maybe she's a part of it or something like that. But it's certainly been good for me because, as I spend time with her, like I watch movies and TV shows at home, and it's a big difference to have a 5.1 surround system versus just, your TV speakers and things like that. And, I'm at the phase, like, I still love going to the movies, but if I'm going to watch something at home, I want to enjoy it. And so, I made those upgrades, and it's been really fun. Now, the frustrating part was that for some reason, I don't know, Mercury's in retrograde or something, but no technology was working. Like, the printer stopped working, the TV kept making like a flashing and then made a crackling sound, and I thought maybe it was because of the sound bar and stuff like that. It wasn't, and I've actually posted a video about that. But long story short, it ended up being the HDMI cable. So got that all resolved. So, slowly but surely making all these things happen. And, isn't it frustrating when technology that like seems so simple is supposed to work, but isn't? I remember with the printer in particular, like it literally took me an hour and a half to 2 hours to like fix. And I'd watched all these videos and, searched the forums, chatted with people, and they're like, you're just supposed to do this. I'm like, I know, I've been doing that and it's not working. Like, okay, well, unplug it and unplug it back in. I'm like, been there, done that, And so, in a way, it's interesting how we've simplified like these consumer products, and yet the simplicity of that doesn't always work. Right? It can be very frustrating in that respect. Let me tell you. But yeah, it's been good to now that things are finally back to working. Then it's been really good. Now I get to enjoy it. So that's fun. The last thing I sort of want to mention is my friend Megan Lynn reached out a couple of weeks ago to me because she has a role in this short film that I shot a while ago. In fact, last November. And, it's something that just because of life and all this other stuff, excuse me, has been put on the back burner. She had essentially called and was asking, what's the status of it? And she was very respectful. Of course, I told her, like, hey, admittedly, life's just kind of gotten in the way. And also, if I'm being honest, a little bit of laziness on my part, and I apologize. I said, no, not a problem. Just she thought about it, was curious. And, certainly it's always great to hear from people involved on projects and, check in with you and be kind and courteous about it. And certainly Megan is someone I really respect and is doing a ton of great work and stuff like that. And so you want to do right by those people. And so we'll see. As I said, a lot still kind of going on. There's a lot with work kind of happening just in terms of, let's call it capacity. And as I said, a lot of time and effort has been going into Diamond, both on the training front as well as finding her forever home. So it's just been a lot, but certainly it is my intention to go back to that short film, finalize it. It's also why I don't love to start new projects until I can, finish off some of the other ones. And certainly, once that project's done, then I'll just be solely focused on, what I've got, which is the script that I'm working on, filmmaking how-to book that's been progressing thanks to, I have a ghostwriter who's taking all the transcripts of each of the chapters and polishing that up. So there's that. And on the back burner for me a little bit has been my second novel, but slowly but surely, every couple of months I make some progress on that. Once I get this script done for the movie, then I feel like a lot of mental creative capacity can go into the novel, because what will be needed next as far as the script will require something different, right? I won't have to be writing two things at the same time. So, that's kind of where I'm at. Speaking of Megan, she went to Vegas recently, and she was looking for recommendations from all her friends, of what to do. And, I asked her, do you like magic? And she said, yeah, I love magic. And I was like, go see David Copperfield. And I even gave her advice. I said, listen, there's 2 showings. Go to the first one, but get there like 20 minutes before the show's supposed to start. And, that way, like you might be able to even get like pretty much like front row seat for relatively cheap, because they're just trying to sell out the tickets. And if you end up missing that one, then you can just book your ticket for the second showing and just enjoy that. And yeah, it worked out for her. She got to see it, and I saw her post about it. She said it was such a wonderful time, magical, pun intended. Maybe not by her, but certainly by me. And that's awesome. I have a lot of respect for David Copperfield in terms of what he does. And, I love him as a magician, and what, like his Vegas show I've seen before. And, it's just kind of what I like about it. It's not just like these tricks, but he weaves a story with it, and it gets very emotional. And so certainly the Vegas one tells a wonderful story, and, a little bit cheesy, sure, you can argue, but at the same time, I think well done. And knowing Megan, I knew she would enjoy it. Now, what does this have to do with you? Well, if you're ever in Vegas, it is my highest and you do like magic, it is my highest recommendation that you see David Copperfield. Even if you don't necessarily love magic, like, if you're ambivalent to, just that in general, I think if you like seeing good performances and enjoy, theater or things of that nature, I think you'll get a lot out of David Copperfield. So that would be my recommendation for you. Anyway, that's kind of what I have for you overall. I mean, certainly there's other aspects to life and things of that nature, but as far as the top line items that I think are worth sharing, these are it. In the coming weeks, I hope to also just kind of polish up my Patreon page. Continues to be fun there to interact with the patrons and help out various people more directly. So yeah, that's kind of the long and short of it. As always, comment down below or hit me up on social media with any thoughts, questions, whether about any of the stuff that I shared or anything that you would love me to talk about in future episodes. Happy to do that. Take recommendations. And my goal always is to provide information and be of value to you. And if you do truly enjoy what I do and think you might benefit from more direct interaction, that's what the Patreon page is for. Patreon.com/Svitek. So check that out. Thank you so much for joining me on this drive, and I hope to see you next time.